Welcome everybody to the last High Street Conversations of 2024. We are looking back at the golden quarter and we are going to see if we can explore how successful or otherwise it's been for high streets across the UK and Ireland. So we know the golden quarter matters. Of course it does. It is by far and away the most important time of the year for most in the retail and hospitality sectors. I mean, it is an absolute powerhouse. It's that period where most businesses actually hope to turn a profit. They are just treading water for most of the year, for the other three quarters. And then this final quarter, that's when the big bucks are made. This is what pays the bills. Last year, during what was seen as a fairly disappointing Christmas for most, on Black Friday alone, apparently £13.3 billion was spent in retailers, which is an astonishing amount of money for just one day. And that doesn't even take into account the rest of the spend in the rest of this really hectic quarter. And this golden quarter matters probably more than most. We're just on this never-ending search for normality. I think we've spoken with John before around the challenges in just finding a benchmark we can use when it comes to understanding the data, because we've had so much disruption over the past few years, pandemic and lockdowns and cost of living crisis, etc. I don't think we've had anything approaching a normal golden quarter since 2019. So considering the period is so important for keeping a lot of our high street businesses' heads above water, that normality would be an absolute blessing. However, this year, I still feel like there's been some challenges we've had to work through. I think most obvious is the weather. And oh, surprise, surprise, in the UK, we're talking about the weather yet again. But it has been a challenge. UK and Ireland, very late in November, got hit by Storm Bert. And for some businesses, it was really, really difficult. Big challenges around flooding, around damage with high winds. Before the cleanup operation could even be completed, Storm Darragh was on the doorsteps of everyone. And that's exacerbated a lot of these issues. It's been a real challenge for businesses at the most important time of the year. And it brings multiple impacts as well. Multiple impacts for businesses, multiple impacts for us as a place management community trying to support those businesses. For some, it's the ability to trade, having to shut up shop when they should be doing a roaring trade because of things like flooding. We know about the relationship between bad weather and footfall. And the fear is sometimes not necessarily that you have then pent up demand, pent up spend, and people will come out and they'll catch up on what they've missed. The fear is that they'll just get it done online if they can't go to the high street because of some exceptionally bad weather. Things like event cancellations, breaking news. We got challenges with the supply chain as a result. So it was announced yesterday, the Holyhead port, which is our second busiest port in the UK, in northern Wales, connected with Dublin. It was meant to open tomorrow. Not going to be opening now till mid-January, thanks to damage from Storm Darragh. And just in terms of high street businesses getting goods on the shelves and also selling into the Republic, it is really problematic. And no doubt this will end up playing a role in terms of inflation figures as well, which in itself has multiple impacts across our economy. So there's lots to consider there. And when we consider the challenge of probably the most disruptive weather happening at the most important time of the year for the high street, it is something we need to seriously consider, because ultimately this is a challenge which, if it changes, it will only change because it gets worse over time, not better. So do we start to need to take that into account in future years when it comes to how we support our businesses during the Christmas period? Are we having to go as far as to think about the built environment and how we shield people from the weather and how we make sure we can continue to attract people out and allow businesses to continue to trade, even when things are difficult, because this period is so important? Something to consider. So, for the final conversation today, lots of things on the table, lots of questions to ask. What has the general performance been like on the high street this quarter? I want to hear from you around the enthusiasm of shoppers of your businesses. What are you hearing? How have things been? Has bad weather impacted your high street, your businesses, your events, etc.? What lessons have been learned for Christmas next year? So, what are you going to be taking into account from this year and possibly applying or putting in place mitigations for next year? And finally, possibly the biggest question of the lot, is Die Hard really a Christmas movie? Because I doubt it is, but I having a furious argument with my brother. Most important question of the day. To help us answer these questions, first off, I want to bring in John from MRI OnLocation. John, thanks for stepping in at short notice. It's great to have you with us. Talk us through some stats and figures on footfall.
Thank you. Yeah, apologies, I wasn't prepared. So yeah, very last minute. You weren't expecting me this morning. Is that sharing for you guys? Hang on. There we go. All good?
Perfect.
Nice one. Okay. Let's go through. So, surprise, I'm not Jenny Matthews. Jenny's been called to a family emergency this morning. So I said I'll cover for you guys this morning. She pulled the deck together. So, yeah, I could probably answer some of those, OJ, not the Die Hard movie. I'm going to say it is a Christmas movie and then exit very quickly so you can debate it after. But in terms of us, how we're doing, what are we doing on the high street? Just a quick overview for those of you who don't know who we are. Historically, you'll have known us as Springboard, and about 2 years ago, we were acquired by MRI, and over the last 2 years, changed our name into OnLocation. So everything we push out now is classed as MRI OnLocation, formerly Springboard. It's been a busy year. There are now nearly 8,000 individual counting points across the UK, which is where the data that I'm about to show you comes from. We collect about 200 million footfall counts a week, and that's from both high street, shopping centre, retail parks, and also retailers, which now we're in about 2,800 retail stores. So our spread and overview of what's going on across both high street and shopping centres is fairly robust. And our data is trusted by many of you that are probably on this call, both local authorities and business improvement districts. It's what gives us our coverage across the UK to allow us to give you this insight back as well. And of course, through the media, you've probably seen a lot of our data being pushed through the media. I think there's been about just over 1,000 articles so far this year. And I'm sure Jenny's gearing up, ready for a very busy Christmas next week to start selling in and letting everybody know how the Christmas week's going as well. So let's have a look at the data. And as you asked, OJ, the golden quarter, what's it looking like for the latter half of this year? Well, here it is, and you mentioned both Storm Bert and Storm Darragh, and looking at the footfall performance in high streets over, say, the last 6 weeks, we can see that it's been defined by 4 key events, essentially. The shift in half-term school break falling in the first week of November across a number of regions saw high street rise around about 8% from the week before, highlighting how important the school holidays are for physical retail. And then Storm Bert arrived just before Black Friday, leading to high street footfall dropping then by 8%. But this did very little to dampen activity in the following week, as activity then rocketed around about 17% during the week of Black Friday. And actually, Storm Darragh failed to hamper footfall as activity levels fell around about 5%. And then bounced back immediately. So while we can see that these storms do deter shoppers from visiting outdoor retail destinations like our high streets, the impact long term is reduced as the bounce back is pretty much immediate. So we recovered quickly in our high streets. And if I show you this slide here, how did high streets really fare in the bigger picture during that 6-week period? Well, looking at the week of Black Friday alone, there were clear winners. Shopping centres saw footfall rise around about 13% and retail parks around 7%. But high streets were leading the way with, which may well be down to the array of festive activities, the markets that you placemakers are putting on, and obviously the attractions drawing those visitors in. So not all negative, let's put it that way. In terms of high street performance year on year, in terms of percentage change, compared against last year, footfall levels remain healthy, but we do need to be mindful that these will be higher due to the shift by 1 week in the calendar. So the week has shifted just slightly, but again, not a huge impact by Storm Darragh year on year for week 49. In terms of the UK retail destination performance by percentage change for weeks 44 and 50, taking a look at performance across the board from last year, this highlights resilience. So essentially, apart from the significant drop in week 47, footfall remains relatively steady. And we're now in the week 51 and expect this to strengthen as the week progresses due to a number of reasons. A lot of people are still working and heading into the offices. I was in our office yesterday. A staggered finish for the festive break. I know a lot of our team are still in next week, working out of our London office and also our office up in Sleaford. And also schools don't finish. My girls finish today. Some are finishing tomorrow, which will also mean a boost in town centre activity, hopefully post 4 or 5 p.m. So if employees are working from offices this week, it's going to be a great opportunity for retailers to maximise this and ensure that hopefully post 5 p.m, as many of them choose to finish up their gift purchases. So plenty of time for you to go out now and get those last minute presents, as you were saying. Just looking at regional trends, because obviously we break our footfall down by region, and as an average over the last 6 weeks, we can see strong year-on-year growth in some regions, which is mainly due to that boost during the half term, and then a significant drop again of the arrival of Storm Bert, helping to balance things out. The Southwest and Wales are marginally lower in terms of the high street footfall, but much of that, of course, is down to Storm Darragh, and only a couple of weeks ago, which hit the western parts of the UK. Another reason why we always include the weather on our client footfall reports, because obviously weather impacts high street footfall. So the ability to look at those weather events and then see the reasons why. So yeah, Southwest and Wales during weeks 44 and 50, clearly the hardest impacted from the data. For those that you don't know, we do a consumer pulse survey. Jenny thought it'd be a good idea to bring these in. So going to finish in terms of, sorry, 2 seconds, share some insights with you from our latest consumer pulse report, which has been produced in partnership with Retail Economics, Richard Lim and the team. The report provides some insights on channel preferences, retail destinations, and even workplace dynamics and the outlook for 25, which may give you guys some insights into what 2025 is going to look like. It's been designed to help retail brands support the sectors to better understand changes in consumer behaviour within bricks and mortar retail. And we've pulled out some ones for you to have a look at today. And this is the first one in terms of Christmas shopping destinations. So let's take a look at this graph. If we look at retail destinations, which are more likely to be visited more so than others compared to last year, and the results from our Consumer Pulse survey show that only 10% of shoppers plan to visit high streets and shopping centres more frequently than last year for this Christmas, while over half expect visit frequency to remain unchanged. So that's 54% for high streets and 51% for shopping centres. Retail parks and shopping centres located in town centres are expected to see a slightly lower visit, with about 20% intending to visit less often. However, 22% of younger shoppers are the most likely to increase. Sorry, I don't know why that keeps moving. However, 22% of younger shoppers are most likely to increase visits to shopping centres which are located in town centres, while 21% of older shoppers show more conservative behaviours, reducing in-person trips. So some real key data coming out of the consumer survey there. And if we look at leisure and hospitality, which drives footfall for younger consumers, these insights delved into how leisure and hospitality establishments are driving footfall, especially when it comes to younger consumers. So we look at this graph here and pull some figures out. Under 35s are driving physical retail visits for experiential purposes, such as dining or leisure. The typical under 35 consumer visits retail destinations 2.3 times more per month than non-shopping reasons, compared to just 1.1 times per month for those aged 55 and over. And this highlights how important retail environments are as social experiment hubs rather than purely transactional spaces. And we're seeing a lot more. You probably heard the phrase coined around sort of experiential and also sort of competitive socializing. We're seeing a lot more of that now, especially in our shopping centres. You know, a lot of our clients are saying, what are we going to do with the Debenhams that remains empty? And we're seeing that competitive socializing now coming in by sort of bowling and all of the leisure experiments that are going on there. And just looking at our office versus work from home and the time of shopping visits, we wanted to know how hybrid working has impacted retail footfall in recent years, and it continues to influence retail footfall, which is something we can monitor through our trends. And this is further supported by the consumer research we found in our latest Consumer Pulse report, which revealed that evening shopping post 5 p.m. is most common for office workers across all retail destinations. Kind of goes without saying, with around 34% choosing this time, and that reflects the alignment of shopping with post-work routines. On office days, around about 31% of respondents visit high streets during lunch hours, the highest amongst all destinations, highlighting their proximity and convenience during working breaks. And then during work from home days, 28% prefer visiting town centres or high streets in the late afternoon or early evening. So finishing work slightly earlier and going into our town centres, while up to 33% engage in retail visits during lunch. And that, OJ, kind of comes to the end of our presentation. We are doing a review webinar where Jenny is going to be joined by Richard Lim, and they're going to delve more into the consumer survey and pulse report that we've done for the back end of this year. It's on the 16th of January between 2 and 3. Even if you can't make it live, you can sign up. We'll send you the recording after as well. And then also we produce quite a lot of retail industry reports. Feel free, we'll share this link after. You'll be able to scan the QR code and access a couple of our resources as well. So hopefully that does give you a bit of insight, kind of matches what you were saying, OJ, around Storm Darragh. But all is not negative. Sometimes we can carry a bit of a negative story around footfall, but things aren't all that bad, as you said.
John, as always, that is really, really insightful. Really great information. Apart from your cop out on the Die Hard question, that was on the money. So, um, uh, obviously, with your permission, are we allowed to share these slides as well with members?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I'll
Brilliant,
get you the
fantastic.
final slide deck out so you've got it.
Yeah, that's great. I know we've only got a couple more minutes with you, so anybody got any questions or comments, please put them in the chat box now, and we'll ask them before John has to leave us. I think that looked like a really big drop of footfall for Storm Bert, and I guess for a lot of placemakers, the concern will be the fact that other locations won't drop nearly as much as the high street when we have that disruption. And is it because of, do you think, in your opinion, more likely to have shelter from the weather? And it could just be simply like that. On a day of really bad weather, do I want to be out in an open environment, or do I want the safety and security of like a retail park, shopping, out of town shopping centre, etc.?
Yeah, you know, things with roofs on, yes, but also retail parks are resilient with exactly that. You're going to take your car, you'll feel safe and secure against the weather and drive your car directly almost to the front door of that retail park unit. So, which is why we've probably seen the resilience continue through the weather from a retail park point of view. It is interesting that whilst footfall dropped for Storm Bert, and obviously from the graph there showing week on week change, it then increased massively for Black Friday. If Black Friday hadn't have fallen when it did, would we be in such a positive position that we are now? I say such, but a more positive position than we would have been. Probably not, because we all get still wrapped up in that Black Friday. We want to be out and try and get those bargains. So yeah, I think if Black Friday wasn't where it fell, I think we'd have had more of a problem.
It's a really good point. Timing is everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, thinking of some of the big events people had organised on the high street as well, for those who sort of fell in between Bert and Darragh, fine, happy days. But others would have clashed with, bad weather front coming in.
Yeah, and we saw so many stories, didn't we? And I saw, quite a few placemakers, bid managers saying, we're really sorry, we've got to cancel this event. And clearly that will have an impact on their individual town centres. And it's now what they do to recover that in this last, 5 days left of trading, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Karen, can I bring you in?
Yeah, I was just going to ask really, knowing what happens when we have these big storms, because these are going to continue, aren't they? I
Yeah,
don't think they're all just going to
it's a given.
disappear. They're going to continue. How does knowing all of this information, which is really valuable, help us plan? What contingencies can we put in place? How can we do things that will minimise that sort of disruption? And I don't know whether there is an answer there, to be honest with you, John, or whether we just have to go with it and make sure you've got the correct insurance in place and do all the other stuff.
I think it is the case to just go with it, isn't it? Because if you look at um, the team putting on the teenage market, for example, which is fantastic for town centres, they are predominantly an outdoor using markets. So you can't then move that inside into a shopping centre very easily, the very nature of that event. So I think you just have to plan for the worst and hope it'll be okay.
Hope for the best,
Yeah,
yeah.
and hope for the best. But also have
Yeah.
that contingency that, if it does happen that weekend, is there then the possibility to move it to the weekend after instead of completely cancelling it altogether?
Yeah, and I think that's where things like event insurance come in, don't they? Because if you've had a huge amount of layout for your infrastructure, so you're going to have to pay for it twice, but you haven't got the right cover for your event, then that could sink you in a lot of
Yeah,
cases. A lot of people are working on a breadline, so that could actually sink you. So I think it's looking at that. But then again, the heightened costs of that as well could be difficult to swallow.
it's a
So I
fine
think it's just
balance,
quite
isn't it?
difficult when you're planning. Yeah, looking at
Yeah.
plan B. What does that mean?
And even for those market traders and for the physical bricks and mortar retailers that may have increased their orders for bakery, or the market traders that have baked all those cakes,
Yeah,
they're lost, aren't they, really?
yeah,
Because they're aiming to
absolutely.
sell everything for that weekend. So it is
Yeah.
a very, very difficult decision. I think you're right, Karen, that we're going to see more of these extreme weather events, be that snow, ice that we don't cope with very well anyway,
Mm.
or extreme winds.
Yeah, yeah. And you can't bury your head in the sand. Not that there's much sand around, but you can't bury your head in the sand and think it's not going to happen, because
Yeah.
there's a real possibility that it could happen. So yeah.
And I think, and we'll probably come to this in sort of like the second half of the meet when we bring Sarah in. We'll start this discussion. It is about thinking there might not always necessarily be an answer for some of the challenges we see, but it is about understanding those challenges. So at least we have the opportunity to think through mitigations, whether short term or long term. I do think that's important, but I think part of it as well, it's not even just about event cancellations. It can be more serious things, like in parts of Wales, we saw businesses that just had to shut up shop because of serious flooding, and that is all the more significant in terms of their long-term health, because ultimately the challenges around stock and goods that might be lost, the ability to trade during the biggest time of year, their own insurance costs, etc. All of that becomes an absolute nightmare for them,
Mm.
more so than the challenges posed by having to change or cancel an event on the high street. So, there's different problems that come with this sort of disruptive weather. We're bang on 10:30, John. I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much
Thanks,
for
John.
the.
No, thanks. Have a good Christmas, everybody, and a
Yeah,
break,
you
and we'll
too.
catch
You,
up in
you
the
have
new
a
Happy
year.
try
birthday.
hard question and
Thank you
report
very
back.
much, Karen. Cheers. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers. And Sarah, can I bring you in to talk about Chelmsford experiences about exactly some of these issues?
You can indeed. Yes, I am literally about to share experiences covering everything that we just discussed around the impact of storms, the kind of adverse weather on our events. So I'm from Chelmsford, which is in Essex, for those that don't know. I know parts of the West Country were kind of more hit, and the South Coast, particularly for Storm Bert. Where we are slightly north of that, we kind of got the brunt of it on the Sunday, which is when we had our Christmas light switch on event planned. We kind of knew something was coming during the week leading up to it. Obviously, the reports were coming in about the weather. I want to say we kind of didn't believe it at first, but you live in that hope that the weather will change 10 times before then. But just in the back of our minds thinking, like, what do we do? We knew there was going to be a bad omen on the Tuesday or Wednesday, I think. It was when I was at the regional meeting, got a phone call to say our Christmas tree had fallen off of a lorry coming down from the north because of the heavy snow. The lorry had been deroaded, and yeah, so things were already quite stressful in the lead up to the event, but we got the tree, the lights, everything was sorted. And yeah, we were having discussions with our stage company. So our event is the biggest of the year, like many, I assume, is the same. We attract between 10 and 13,000 people into the city centre on that day. And speaking to our retailers, market traders, it's the busiest day of trade in the year for a lot of people. We work with our bid businesses, giving them space on the high street as well, in market stalls. So, for example, one of our venues do a pop-up bar for us. That's £3,000 they lost on the day, just in the stock. And we know there's so many more businesses in exactly the same boat. So yeah, knowing it was coming, speaking to the stage company, forecasting wind gusts of 56, 57 miles an hour. The stage evacuation limit was 35 miles an hour. So we had to be mindful. We had plan B ready to go on the Friday, or on the Thursday or Friday, which was a strip back event. So the 30 market stalls we had planned to move into one of our 2 indoor shopping centres. So that was covered. We have 2 stages, one a big Arctic lorry, which is of course the one that we had to cancel because we couldn't safely bring it in, set it up and have people on there. We had a smaller stage which actually withstood a higher wind gust limit. But yeah, as it got to Friday, it wasn't going anywhere. We saw lots of other places had started to announce cancellations for the Saturday. Obviously, ours was the Sunday, which actually then started to forecast worse. So we had to make the difficult decision on Friday to cancel the whole event. It got to the stage where it was a moral decision. We know the financial implications. It wasn't a decision we made lightly. We could have run that stripped back event within all of the insurance and risk policies. However, morally, could we ask thousands of people to safely travel into the city when those weather forecasts are going to be trees in roads, telegraph poles down, damage to the public realm? So yeah, we made that decision. Luckily, cancelling it on the Friday, we managed to recoup probably about 65 to 70% of the costs. The main loss that we got was the staging. It was too late to recoup any money, but luckily all of the performers that we had lined up, they're all kind of local, and we rearranged them to the 7th of December. We'll come on to that in a moment, where we launched our Christmas cabins, which was a trial for us of some kind of hard-standing Christmas market stalls. It didn't go down particularly well online, as you can imagine. Lots of businesses were disgruntled, and totally understandable. Obviously, we had put comms out first to them. Lots of members of the public not happy. This is a free event. This is, you know, kickstarting Christmas. We can't afford to take our kids to see Santa anywhere. This is the one time we get to come in and feel Christmassy. Again, not ideal. Lots of hearsay that we had to deal with around, you don't cancel an event 2 days before because of weather, there's more at play here, all of those kind of rumours. And then there was also a nearby town who were doing an outside market on the Sunday, who were plastering all over our social media. Bit of wind can't stop us, come down here, we're still going ahead, you know, really quite aggressive commenting. What I would say on the day, we're obviously, the team are all sat there thinking, oh, we need some bad weather here. We don't want anyone to get hurt, but we need some bad weather. And it wasn't a nice day. And actually the event that went ahead down the road, as you can imagine, gazebos went flying, 3 people were hospitalised, and the event organisers are under police investigation. So we know no one was seriously injured and everyone was okay, but yeah, it kind of reaffirmed to us that we did definitely make the right decision. And I would just say to anybody, make that decision. You can't take the risk when it comes to public safety. And I know everyone, you know, on this call will know that, but yeah, we've been receiving backlash ever since. I think I have taken up the title of most hated woman in Chelmsford for about 3 weeks now. And then just to kind of follow on from that, as mentioned, a lot of the events and performances, the music acts, singers that we had lined up for the 24th for our switch on, actually we rearranged for the 7th, which was our launch day of the cabins. 3 days before that, Storm Darragh started entering the news, and on that Saturday, gusts of wind back in the 40s and 50s. So again, we had to cancel all of that. The production team who were lined up told us on the Thursday, you know, our insurance would be void if they came along and put a gazebo up. So it's another thing, you know, we have our PLI for big public events. However, every single individual person that you work with that are outside, you know, traders, none of their insurance would count if they turned up, delivered, you know, something happened to the gazebo or anything. So yeah, we were very mindful of that. So yeah, that was another hit. And we actually had to make the decision for all of the traders in the huts not to trade on that day as well. We cancelled the market, which was another devastating blow. But luckily it's been successful since. So I think from a Chelmsford point of view, it's been a real hit to our economy. As mentioned, you know, one of our businesses has just lost like that 3 grand's worth of stock. That's not even the trade on the day. That was just the stock that they bought in, which of course they wouldn't be able to put through their business because that was already covered. So yeah, it was a real hit. And I think I would back up what John said earlier in that had it not been for the Black Friday timing this year, which has boosted our city, we'd be looking at a very different story. Luckily, we are fortunate here. Footfall remains quite positive and steady, but those 2 days have certainly hit Chelmsford hard. And yeah, it's made us very mindful with kind of future events on, do we do something such large scale, knowing that it could have that impact at such short notice? I think we are going to make the decision to continue. It's what we're known for, and it's what our businesses really value and want, but it will certainly make us really mindful and cautious. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
That sounds painful. I mean, I don't think you could have handled it any other way.
No.
It sounds like you've handled it in absolutely the right way. It doesn't stop it being really painful, really difficult.
No, it was. And, you know, even it gets into the press, doesn't it? And social media, all those kinds of things. It was really, really tough. We even had businesses like, what are you going to do with our money now? And online, ironically, someone that hasn't paid their bid levy, of course, it would be that one. But, you know, it's a difficult decision, but we do still stand by the fact it was the right one.
Yeah, yeah. And it is the right one. We had to cancel a purple flag assessment in Reading. And I think that was because of Storm Darragh, not Bert, I think it was Darragh. And we didn't want to. It was difficult, but we'd been caught up before with purple flag assessments. I think there was one in New Zealand which went by. Real emphasis to go ahead because some guy called Ed Sheeran was in town and big event on. Purple flag assessment had to go ahead despite reports of a storm rolling in. Absolutely shouldn't have done. Wrong decision. We had purple flag assessors get stuck because the ensuing storm was so bad, and we regretted it. It's really tough. So it's good to know that Black Friday and its timing has just helped to recover some of the situation. What's the relationship been like with dealing with local media? Because I can imagine local media can be a particular challenge when you're trying to justify why you've had to postpone stroke cancel the event.
Yeah, absolutely. We sent a press release out straight away, trying to cover every scenario and making it very clear as well that it was a full event cancellation. Because the amount of people are like, well, can't you just reschedule it? Why don't you do it the next weekend? It's not as simple as that, as we all know. So yeah, it was a minefield really on that particular day, answering all those questions. I would like to say we've got quite a good relationship with our local media, not particularly with all local journalists, but we were fortunate that particular story, the event cancellation with them, didn't go too negatively. Obviously, the comments underneath from the public is a different story. What I would say, and we spoke about this briefly yesterday, OJ, with our Christmas cabins, which again, from my point of view, has been a real boost to the economy this year. We've gone small, it's 16 huts, and we've been really careful not to compete with local businesses. So there's kind of nothing other than, you know, a coffee, a Bailey's coffee, that would compete with anything. And it's something that we want to see grow. Journalist came along a couple of days ago and messaged us yesterday saying, I'm about to put out this piece, just to give you the heads up. Headline, disappointing Christmas market, lack of stalls. So obviously straight on the phone saying, at no point have we ever described this as a Christmas market. We've been very mindful not to, because we don't want to give people the wrong impression. Our intention is to grow it. We want to take the community with us. We're focusing locally. And actually for you to put this article out there is going to be really detrimental for that future growth, and the reputation of all the traders. We had a John Lewis pop-up there at the same time, so having to kind of prepare them. So yeah, it was planned to be a really negative story, but luckily having those contacts within our local media outlet, it got released last night with a exciting to see the Christmas cabins grow article rather than disappointing Christmas market. So we managed to save that. And I would say that is down to the relationship we have with the actual media company. So yeah, that was
Well done.
yeah.
Yeah, well done. Like I said on the phone yesterday, that just sounds like pure clickbait.
Yeah, definitely.
How can you get the most clicks? Because everybody wants a story about how someone somewhere is killing Christmas. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you managed to turn that around. And obviously open to the floor if there's anybody that wants to ask Sarah a question, or if you have your own experiences in terms of Christmas as well, whether you've had to cancel events, whether you've gone ahead with events, what general performance has been like as well in terms of footfall. I'm happy to hear all of it. I think what I will do is I want to start with Susan. Can I bring you in with regards to your comment about Canada?
Yeah, here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying from visiting Canada a few times, a lot of their shopping centres, a lot of their shops are, the environment is conducive to bad weather, so people can continue to shop. But then that's, good infrastructure planning on their part, and it is very cold, and you do get a lot of snow and ice there. So you can walk from one side of a town centre into another, and you've got covered walkways. So yeah, but that's obviously planned well in advance when they build these places. So yeah, just a very pleasant shopping experience in very bad cold weather. You can carry on. But a lot of our shopping centres aren't built that way yet. But it's something to think about for the future. I mean, I suppose a lot of things can be done temporarily, certainly in terms of awnings and things like that, keeping some of the rain off people, where the shops have got awnings and they can be put them out, and all sorts of other things to alleviate the aftermath of a lot of rain and stuff, snow, grit, ice, stuff in doorways, umbrella stands, all those sort of things that make it all a bit more comfortable to go shopping. But yeah, covered walkways perhaps is is the future.
Yeah, I think so. So I think for us, one of the things we are actively exploring is the role something like property owner bids might be able to play in allowing a lot of areas to actually invest in adapting the built environment for things like that, especially when it comes around anything to do with climate resilience and climate action.
Yeah.
We just think that there is an opportunity there to get property owners to collaborate together to invest in the built environment to make it more successful. And for me, there is a strong willingness for them to do so simply because it's their assets which are on the line. They have the most to lose if people are deciding to shop elsewhere. So I think that will be a win-win for everyone if we could have that as an option, allowing communities to invest in the built environment. So it is something we're looking, but that's a very, very long-term solution.
I would say I would echo that, because I think from my experience in dealing with a lot of Section 106 requirements on new developments in the sort of Wandsworth area in particular, there is now a very big focus on climate change and rain gardens and storm drains and flood control. So a lot of that's built into the planning regulations now, which will help mitigate some of the effects. But absorbing water in urban environments to help mitigate the floods that you get in the people who've got basements and losing stock. That happens all the time. So trying to improve the drainage, which is really poor in a lot of areas. But new developments can put both those things in.
Yeah, agreed. Sarah, can I ask you a question? If you were, what type of lessons are you thinking about taking into next year for Christmas? If I know it's early days, but what might you change about planning events for next year?
Yeah, I've got to get over this one first.
Sorry, it's soon, isn't it?
I think from our point of view, where we have spent the last few years kind of changing the format since we took it on from the council and keeping everything really hyper local, that has helped us to alleviate some of the concerns that people may have around kind of financial commitments to marketing agencies, performers, celebrities that are involved, switching the lights on, that kind of thing. We didn't have that, and I think that is, again, affirming to us that it's the right decision. We can place those people at other events throughout the year, and we work nicely and closely with them to keep that relationship alive. So I would recommend looking at that, and yeah, it affirms that we're doing the right thing. What I would say for some of those larger companies that like our fireworks and the staging, things like that, is just making everything watertight in terms of the clauses and the contracts and stuff. We're fortunate we'd only paid a deposit on the fireworks and they honoured that. We didn't have to pay the rest. I don't actually think there's anything we could have done differently on the staging because it was so last minute and it is within their contract. However, I think we would probably have plan B, plan C already lined up rather than trying to do it 3 days before we would potentially have to deliver it. We'll probably, yeah, have backup options earlier.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Diane, I can see your hand is up. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, hi. Not to your extent, Sarah, in Aylesbury, but we had an experience similar to yours. Our event was on the 24th, and obviously we had a parade, we had fireworks, we had a little market going in an area of town, and we got some things going on inside one of the shopping centres. The decision was made on the Saturday afternoon, definitely to confirm not to go ahead with some of the event, i.e. no parade for people's safety and fireworks for obvious reasons. With the storm coming in, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned from it, part of my remit is to make sure we've got all the Christmas lights up in town. And we're just on the going out, we've gone out to tender for 25, 26 and 27. And all these businesses that have been to see me have been saying, you know, can we go for remote switch on? And I was sort of thinking, this is a great idea. You know, if people haven't got to run around town up and down ladders and things, this could be fantastic. Never have I felt more grateful for actually having the Christmas light installers on site on the day. And if they hadn't have been there, I dread to think what would have happened, because pieces of trees had broken where they had lights attached to them. So things were coming down. The difficulty was getting them to go up on their moop in the weather that it was with the restrictions. But obviously safety had to come first, but we needed to do stuff. And I think just one of the biggest things that I've learned is going forward, I will always have somebody on site just to be on hand to actually reassure you that things can get put right. You know, and especially when it's something like that, Christmas lights, it's out of your control.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Quite interestingly, as I say, the amount we've had 7 businesses come to look at tendering for us, and they're all saying, oh, well, you know, let's go remote. And I'm sort of sitting here thinking, no, no more.
No, if I can just quickly jump in there, I completely agree. I'm a people person rather than robots and remote things. So yeah, for my peace of mind, I would completely agree with you. We made it very clear in our press release at the time that the lights would still be switched on. However, we didn't tell anyone when or what time. We just said over the course of that weekend, when it is safe to do so, the lights would be switched on. We had the team on site, actually, quite fortunately, because the tree had been delayed. The team were on site on the Saturday to put the lights in the tree ahead of Sunday's event, whereas they were supposed to be doing that on the Wednesday and then coming in on the Sunday. Obviously speaking really closely with the install team and company, we'd made the decision that with the team on site, they would just monitor the situation, and at any point they felt it was safe to switch the lights on, they would do so not all at once, just bits here and there across the weekend, because we didn't want anyone going up in cherry pickers. We didn't want anything like that going on while they felt the storms were too strong. We had freestanding kind of static items as well, which we'd made the decision in the lead up that wouldn't be put in until the Monday, so that A, they weren't trying to do it in the storm, and B, if they did it on the Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday came and knocked things down, damaged it. So yeah, we had those provisions in place, which wouldn't have been possible if it was someone sitting somewhere else in the country just pressing a button. So yeah, completely agree.
Good.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Hadn't thought of that, but that sounds like something really over a busy period when you've got lots going on, and then you've got the challenge of the weather, having people on site to help you as forecasts change.
But I think we were quite lucky because obviously, like you, Sarah, we got a lot of negative press, but it was really interesting, and we've not experienced this before. Like you, can we move the event? Can we do this? And as we've already said, it's too difficult to rearrange and do stuff. And then all of a sudden there was a swathe of people on social media that absolutely berated those that were saying, what do you think people are trying to do? You can't move things. You can't do this. There's costs. People have got plans. You can't be moving things. Get a life. And all of a sudden the public were backing us, and we were like, wow, this is a bit unusual, because they wouldn't normally, would they? So it was a strange one for us, but we got through it.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Stephen, can I bring you in?
Yep. Hi. Thanks, OJ. Just to add, that's a quirky thing that happened with us, which has sort of caught us a little bit. We had our launch event, which, to be fair, was before all the storms, so we managed to dodge that one. But one of the things that we have done is we've got a month-long activation going on, trail, which is one hit. We do it once, it lasts all month, and it's publicising just to keep people coming to the city. The thing that we experience is that there was a little bit more resentment to the brought in Christmas market from our local traders. And we had our board meeting a couple of weeks ago, and there was some hospitality retail weren't having a go at us, but it's the council contract. And there was a bit of resentment about the fact that they're taking our trade away more so than normal. Because, yesterday evening, for example, OJ, you mentioned the weather. Yesterday evening, at 5 o'clock onwards, it was horrible weather out there, and the streets were empty. All those working from home, working in the office, going shopping, didn't happen yesterday evening. So there's that resentment of people coming in, taking the money and disappearing off to wherever they're based. So that's just a little observation. And yeah, Nikki, yes, I'll be interested in what the footfall. I'm sure we're going to get it, but we'll get it, I know, but I'll be interested in that spend data. And Black Friday here was like 3-4 days. It's actually nearly 3 weeks now, but it's like a 3-day weekend, and they did very well. But inside shopping centre ones, John Lewis's and people like that. That was it.
Yeah, really interesting, and more than happy to hear about that dynamic with other people's Christmas markets, because there can be challenges. The tensions Stephen speaks about. I think there's a few areas where you hear about some of the tensions between market traders coming in, setting up just for Christmas, just these specific Christmas market traders, and sort of leaving again. That conflict with some of the local businesses. So happy to hear about those experiences as well. It might be that soon we'll do a high street conversations specifically about the issue of Christmas markets and how we manage them. So happy to hear from that. I think it might be, given Stephen's comments, a good time to bring Nikki in to talk about some of the spend data around Black Friday. Actually, it sounds like that'll be really useful.
Thanks, OJ. The good news is I think a lot of what we've seen correlates with, what the MRI guys were talking about earlier. So November overall was about 1% up for us across our 62 cities across GB. Interestingly, that was driven by a slight decline in customer numbers of about 2% and an increase in the average transaction value. So basically slightly fewer customers, but spending more. However, so that was kind of November as a whole. But I think we absolutely saw like very, very strong results in Black Friday itself. again, slightly impacted by the fact that it's a bit later. So it was the 29th of November versus the 24th. So a bit closer to payday. So some people had a bit more cash in their pocket, a bit closer to Christmas. But nevertheless, sales in high streets were up 14.5%. So that was in contrast to the kind of ONS talking about retail as a whole being up around 5 or 6. So, you know, high streets really kind of punching above their weight. Customers up 6%, ATV up 8%. Really, really strong set of daily sales results for town and city centres, you know, really cementing this as a big retail activation opportunity. And exactly to, you know, Stephen's point there about the days, you know, we didn't just see this as a Black Friday. In fact, I'm just gonna, I've got a blog post that Diane wrote, but she's ducked off, that we're going to publish shortly. So watch this space, but we had Black Friday, you know, during the week, if we looked at it versus Black Friday, the sort of same week a year ago, you know, we were looking at, you know, sort of 14 or 15% sales up on the Friday and the Saturday. When we looked at the sales versus the week before, so, you know, Friday of Black Friday versus the 22nd of November, it was up 50% on Friday, and 46% on the Saturday. So, and even on the Sunday, which is arguably a slightly lesser day of trading, up 12% versus the, you know, same Sunday the week before. So we were seeing that Black Friday experience, not just, as Stephen said, on the day itself, but as a whole weekend, and actually during the week preceding that, slightly up as well across most of the other days. So, you know, I think a really, really strong performance that the kind of the town and city centre should be really proud of, you know, driven by lots of the really fantastic activities that all you guys are putting on despite the weather. And yeah, hopefully that trajectory and that positivity will kind of pull through and obviously maintain for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, thanks a lot, Nicky. That's it's comforting to hear that Black Friday has done all right. Sounds like it's been a bit of a saviour.
Yes, and I think that's really fair to say, you know, and as everybody says, you know, the weather gods were on Black Friday's side, and you know, that was all worked well. But you know, certainly for what we see in November is, you know, that's probably bottomed out and kind of ended up with everybody sort of just slightly up. But you know, that's actually a really strong position because November is the first month where we've been slightly up since March this year. So whilst it isn't kind of necessarily you know, 10-20% up, you know, it's still a very, very positive performance in the context of, you know, the year's performance, and very much with kind of Black Friday being, you know, having sort of been very much the saviour there in terms of that retail picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we can't dismiss just how important some of those percentages are when it comes to Black Friday, because the numbers we're talking about are so huge. So I talked about the 13.3 billion pounds which are reported to have been spent on Black Friday last year. Any percentage on the year-on-year performance for Black Friday this year, up or down, because we're starting from such a large base, those percentage points could mean actually a pretty sizable figure in terms of spending. So it matters. It matters for the health of the high street businesses. So I'd like to hear from others as well. How was Black Friday in your town? It just seems to be such an important part of the golden quarter now. Black Friday and of course Cyber Monday. Boo. So it'd be good to hear what you think about how that shapes Christmas shopping. If you feel it works, if you feel it's not helpful, it'll be great to hear some of those comments. Susan, you've left another comment in the chat box. Can I bring you back in? Just for the purposes of those people watching this recorded won't see the chat box, so it'd be good to get that information on what you've been doing for Small Business Saturday.
Yeah, we hadn't really got much of a focus on Black Friday, but we did have a big focus on Small Business Saturday, which is obviously the first Saturday in December. And we tend to run that into the Shop Local campaigns, which last, you know, more like a month in the run up to the Christmas shopping and it all helps the retailers. We do a lot of work with that, and we do a lot of work with our local politicians as well across Richmond and Wandsworth. And also Howard Durbar, the Deputy Mayor for Business, came down as well, organised by the London Chamber of Commerce and also the Federation of Small Business. So there's a lot of political input to the Small Business Saturday, and we should ride on the back of that as well. But we do a lot of, we've learned that doing a lot of video clips, which can be then curated for social media and websites and business newsletters, because we use all of those sort of media channels, very, very powerful in conveying, particularly if you take a journey down the street and you pop into shops and talk to the local shop owners and what their unique offering is and how they, value quality of service and things like that. All that can be conveyed very well on a video clip, and that material can last quite a long time and can be used in different ways. And they can be kept from year on year, so you can go back into each of the centres and look at the trips down the high street and see the talks with the individual shopkeepers. So that's been very successful, and we've done more and more of that and got sort of cleverer with the videos as well, doing sort of subtitles and everything else as well, so that people, it's all very accessible. So yeah, I'd say that was quite a good campaign for us this year, and more even so than last year. So we're continuing to grow the number of videos we do and store them.
That's great.
Yeah.
The great thing about Small Business Saturdays, when you're focusing on those small businesses and those independents as well, that does feel to me like it's really helpful. There are obviously very few of us are going to be in favour of Cyber Monday, and I think even Black Friday, while there's a lot of spending, some of our members might question where exactly the money is going, whether that's all really going to the high street. But something like Small Business Saturday, I do think that is something which is so beneficial to those smaller businesses.
Yeah. No, well, they appreciate all the work we do, and we do lots of stickers for individual town centres with unique images for them as well. So it all helps to promote them, and that's quite good. That's right across the two boroughs.
Yeah, that's really useful. That's really useful. As she's just leaving the room, so Helen Walters in Stockport has just posted a comment saying she had to overrule a local market provider and cancel a Christmas event due to a storm. And there is a meeting in the new year to focus on reviewing insurance policies for those that Stockport contracts with. And looking at plan Bs. So clearly an issue for Stockport as well. And it is all about timing. I think 2 weeks ago on the weekend, me and the family went out into Manchester city centre, and the weather wasn't ideal, but it was perfectly fine. It was perfectly safe. Parade was great, etc., etc. It was a good day out. It was a good day out. But literally, you move it a few days forward or back, and you're in the middle of a storm. And so much of this is just about pot luck, isn't it? So that's a real challenge. Before we're close to time now, so before we shut up shop, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas and let you go get the mince pies in. Any other questions or comments? Anything anybody would like to raise in terms of their own performance in their own town? It'll be really good to hear from you. So anything else, or are we all happy? And any final comments on Die Hard? Because I do disagree with Nick. I don't think it's a Christmas movie. I think you can remove Christmas from Die Hard. It wouldn't change the substance of the film, because it's not. It's set at Christmas. That doesn't make it about Christmas. That's all I'm saying. So any other comments?
I agree with you, OJ. There's a comment.
And that's why you are my.
I agree. You don't have to say that. I just agree.
Thanks, Craig. And Craig agrees with me as well.
I'm with you. I'm with you, OJ, as well. Yep, I'm with you.
Yeah, I think so. You can use Bing Crosby at end credits all you want. That doesn't necessarily make it a Christmas film. It's got to be more than that. Thank you very much, guys. I think huge thanks to John Burnett. I know he had to jump off early. stepping in at short notice. So he only stepped in this morning to do that presentation. So that was great insight from him. Sarah, well done in Chelmsford. You faced a storm, and I think you've come through it the other end with reputation improved. So
Hopefully.
regardless of what the
Hopefully.
local naysayers will say,
Yeah.
I think you've done a cracking job. So well done.
Thanks. And
And I
happy
think,
Christmas to everybody.
Yeah,
yeah,
same to you, Sarah, and everyone. Happy Christmas. You
absolutely.
managed to
Happy
get some
Christmas, everyone.
downtime.
Yeah, the ATCM team will not be having any downtime because we've got a lot planned for 2025. I know I say this every year, but it's going to be a lot.
He's not kidding.
I'm really not kidding. So the team are probably going to have to meet early in the new year as well for a proper team away day just to go through everything we've got to discuss. Big event at the beginning of next year, 26th of February, obviously. A crisis in local government finance, where we'll be talking about all the financial challenges we have in terms of public spending, the impact on our local authority members, the knock-on impact for our bid members in terms of additionality and having to step in to help provide some of the services that were once seen as core services, etc., etc. And Sarah's going to be joining us for that, so we can confirm that Sarah is going to be on the agenda. We'll hear from Chelmsford. So I think it's going to be a big event. Please join us for that. There's going to be lots of other things happening as well, which I can't discuss yet, but plans are in development. So hopefully that will be out soon, and we'll get together the end of year email as well, which goes through all the stuff we've done this year. It's a lot. And guys, we can't do it without you. So Merry Christmas. You'll deserve a nice winter break. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next year. So thanks a lot, guys.